super sparkly sapphires. I hope you had a nice weekend. Today is Monday, April 27th, 2020. So if today is Monday, what was yesterday? I hope you said Sunday. And if today is Monday, what will tomorrow be? I hope you said Tuesday. Mindful position in 5, 4, 3, 2. Wonderful. Today is the 143rd day of school. That's 100 for 10s and 3 1s. On Mondays, we're going to be singing the Days of the Week song and the Months of the Year song. Ready? Begin Days of the Week. There's Sunday and there's Monday. There's Tuesday and there's Wednesday. There's Thursday and there's Friday. And then there's Saturday. Days of the week. Days of the week. Days of the week, days of the week, days of the week. And now let's sing the months of the year. January, February, March, and April, May, June, July, and August, September, October, November, December. These are the months of the year. Today for Map Monday, you will be coloring again a map of the United States. This map will show the deserts and the plains in the United States. This one's pretty simple and quick because we only have 4 major deserts and the Great Plains, just one big section. So today we're going to be coloring the Great Basin Desert that covers most of Nevada, the Mojave Desert that's in Nevada and California, the Sonoran Desert, which is my favorite, which is a little bit in California, mostly in Arizona, and a little bit down here in Mexico, but this only shows the United States. And then again, the Chihuahuan Desert is in Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and also down in Mexico, but that doesn't show this because this is the United States only. So Mexico's down here with some deserts too. The Great Plains, also known as Tornado Alley, also very, very flat, goes all the way down, basically behind the middleman's back, if you want to think of it like that. Here's our middleman, and behind him is the Great Plains, covering North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, there's the Panhandle, and Texas. During the Civil War, something else really important was going on, and that was that railroad tracks were beginning to be built across the country, which was a new and faster mode of transportation. And in 1869, the Transcontinental Railroad was completed. That means that the train tracks went all the way across the country. One set of tracks was built from the west and one was built from the east, and they met and connected at Promontory Point, Utah. Now, this story is a legend. That means it may or may not have actually happened. John Henry, An American Legend by Ezra Jack Keats. A hush settled over the hills. The sky swirled soundlessly round the moon. The river stopped murmuring. The wind stopped whispering. And the frogs and the owls and the crickets fell silent, all watching and waiting and listening. Then the river roared. The wind whispered and whistled and sang. The frogs croaked, the owls hooted, and all the crickets chirped. "Welcome, welcome," echoed through the hills. And John Henry was born with a hammer in his hand. Bang, 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 rang little John Henry's hammer through the cabin as he crawled about. "What's that rascal up to now?" his mother chuckled, and before she knew it, he was big enough to help her around the house. As he grew up, he did a man's work with his father. One day, John Henry thought, "I am taller and stronger than anyone around. It's time I went out into the world." He said goodbye to his mother and father, and off he went. He worked on farms and in cotton fields, but all that was too tame, so he got himself a job on a riverboat. One stormy night, the ship plowed through the darkness. Suddenly, the big steel rod that turned the paddle wheel broke. The wheel stopped turning. Smash went the rod through the bottom of the ship. "Pump water," shouted the captain. "Get to port before we sink." John Henry leaped to the paddle wheel crank. He seized it, just like Stuart Little seized his hammer. He pushed, grunted, and pulled. Slowly, the giant wheel turned. With all his strength, he kept it turning. "Lord Almighty, help us," someone whispered in that long, dark night. Day broke. They sighted shore and pulled into port. A thunderous cheer went up for John Henry. John Henry felt a new excitement in the air. Men were talking of railroads being built from the Atlantic to the Pacific. "They're going to lay those tracks over rivers, across prairies and deserts, and right through mountains," they said, "and through Indian lands and stampeding buffalo herds and badlands," which are actually really cool. "Goodbye, boys," cried John Henry. "I'm going to swing me a hammer on them beautiful new tracks." "My hands are just itching to hold a hammer again," John Henry said. He tried one for size and laughed. "It sure does feel fine." He drove those spikes, singing to the clanging of his hammer. The men joined in, their voices singing, hammers ringing. John Henry's gang was in the lead. Day after day, the tracks moved steadily westward. Rising across their path was a sprawling mountain range. Its snow-capped peaks reached high into the clouds. "We'll have to tunnel through," said his friend Little Bill. "It'll be awful dangerous. Could be cave-ins," someone said. "That suits me fine," said John Henry. "Me too," added Little Bill. "Here's how we'll do it, boys," the foreman called out. "A couple of men will drive a hole into the rock. Then the powder men will put dynamite into the hole and explode it. The others will cart the loose rock away. We'll do this again and again until we have a tunnel right through this mountain, and it's going to be a real big tunnel, boys. Big enough for a giant locomotive pulling one of them long strings of trains. All right, boys, blast away." Deep into the mountain they worked. John Henry's singing echoed through the tunnel. The powder men got ready to blast more rock. They filled a hole with dynamite, put in a long fuse, and lit it. "Run, men," cried the foreman. They all scrambled back, ready to dash clear of the blast. And that instant came a great cracking and rumbling, and the entire tunnel trembled around them. "It's a cave-in! We're trapped!" There was no place to run. The fuse burned closer to the dynamite. John Henry was nearest to the fuse. He ran to put it out. but tripped and fell. "Oh, I'm hurt bad," he groaned. "I can't get up." The fuse burned farther out of reach. Others rushed toward it, but they were too far away. Suddenly, John Henry remembered he still had his hammer in his hand. Down came the hammer, smack, on the burning tip. The fuse was out. Danger past. Sighs of relief filled the smoky tunnel. "Whew, help me up, boys," murmured John Henry. Clearing their way through the cave-in, the men carried him to safety. Some days later, they heard an unfamiliar clatter. Down the tunnel came a group of men with a strange machine. "This is a steam drill. It can drill more holes faster than any 6 men combined," a new man bragged. "Who can beat that?" John Henry stepped forward. "Try me." He and Little Bill took their workplaces. John Henry gripped his hammer. Little Bill clutched his steel drill. "Check the machine," came an order. A nervous hand fell on the switch. In the dark, both sides waited for the signal to start. A hoarse voice counted 1, 2, 3. The machine shrieked as it started. John Henry swung his hammer. The crash of steel on steel split the air. Clang, bang, clang. The drill got red hot in Little Bill's hands. He quickly dropped it and picked up another. Hiss, whistle, rattle. Men frantically heaved coal into the hungry, roaring engine and poured water into the steaming boiler. Whoop, clang, whoop, bang. John Henry's hammer whistled as he swung it. Chug, chug, clatter, rattled the machine. Hour after hour raced by. The machine was ahead. So John Henry and Little Bill are trying to break through the rock of the mountain with their bare hands and their hand tools, and they're trying to do it better and faster than this new machine. The machine was ahead. "Hand me that 20-pound hammer, Little Bill." Harder and faster crashed the hammer. Great chunks of rock fell as John Henry ripped hole after hole into the tunnel wall. The machine rattled and whistled and drilled even faster. Friends doused John Henry and Little Bill with cold water to keep them going. Then John Henry took a deep breath. He picked up 2 sledgehammers and sang, "Ain't no hammer strike such fire, strike like lightning, Lord, I won't tire. Hammers like this, Lord, there's never been. I'll keep swinging, Lord, until we win." Wow, he's determined. John Henry swung both mighty hammers faster and faster. He moved so fast the men could see only a blur and sparks from his striking hammers. His strokes rang out like great heartbeats. At the other side of the tunnel, the machine shrieked, groaned and rattled and drilled. Then all at once it shook and shuddered, wheezed, and stopped. Frantically, men worked to get it going again, but they couldn't. The machine had collapsed. John Henry's hammering still rang and echoed through the tunnel with a strong and steady beat. Suddenly, there was a great crash. Light streamed into the dark tunnel. John Henry had broken through. Wild cries of joy burst from the men. Still holding one of his hammers, John Henry stepped out into the glowing light of a dying day. It was the last step he ever took. Even the great heart of John Henry could not bear the strain of his last task. John Henry died with his hammer in his hand. If you listen to the locomotives roaring through the tunnels and across the land, you'll hear them singing of that great steel-driving man, John Henry.